Hey everybody, Dan Shinder here on Drum Talk TV with Gary Husband. Gary is coming to us from Somerset in the UK in England, and I'm still up in Globe, Arizona, 100 miles east of Phoenix, up in the mountains. And if you follow the show, you know that there's been a little bit of challenges with the internet lately. And so this is not live because I didn't want to take a chance to F up Gary's interview. I figure even with great internet, I might end up doing that anyways. But leave some questions as we go, because Gary and I are going to check this over the next few days and follow up with some answers. But Gary, how are you?
I'm great, Dan. I'm very thankful for having me on the show, and great to meet
you. And thank you for taking time.
My pleasure. My pleasure. The privilege and the honor is all mine.
Oh, thanks. You know, when I think of what I do know about your music, playing with Allan Holdsworth, of course, the great Allan Holdsworth, the late great Allan Holdsworth, your work with Level 42, your work with Jack Bruce, Robin Trower, you know, and that work, believe it or not, I'm not as familiar with, but we'll get to who you've played with and some of those experiences in a moment. The first question I'd like to ask you about is, what is the deal with your Pearl inverted kit with stuff sort of mixed around and all of that, and your style of play and a rearrangement? Talk about that, and how'd you come up with that, and why? Did you want to just inspire yourself a whole new way of thinking and approaching the instrument by rearranging stuff, or what was the
Yeah, you know, it's funny, I just wanted to mix stuff up. Plus, I was playing in a band at the time where, you know, I was not the only drummer in the band. And at any given moment, as many as 3 guys would be regularly jumping on the kit, you know, and it was really starting to piss me off. And I'd like, leave my gear alone, please. You know?
It's like a drum orgy, right?
And it's like, oh no, man, I feel like playing, you know, and they get on the kit. So, and I say, well, I'm gonna sort these guys out.
So is it just to populate them, basically?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, that was half, because I actually wanted to do it to myself too. I wanted to give myself a challenge of this inverted idea which you kindly picked up on, where the top tonalities are situated on the outside of the kit, and they come in a little bit like a tree and down the trunk, sort of, or in the case of the toms, down the side. So it'd be like this, and then out, and then vice versa. And there was kind of some symmetrical descending scale and ascending scale, but it made everything else impossible. So it required, and this is what I kind of liked about it, that you really, really just have to start discovering a new way to do everything. And I thought that was kind of cool at the time.
Yeah.
I would not like to do that now. And in actual fact, it started getting to the point where I was getting so used to it that it was very difficult to play a conventional kit again after that.
So how long ago was that, Gary, that you started doing that?
That had to have been about 1988, 89.
Okay. And were you already playing open-handed style, or did you adapt it specifically for that setup?
Yeah, I'd been playing open-handed style since, well, you know, since the first time I saw Billy Cobham, basically.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, the moment I saw that, it was a real game changer. I mean, there were a few other guys on the scene as well who were doing that, but you know, the ease which appeared to me to be so logical. I mean, it looked so comfortable, and it looked like he was so easy in the way he was literally open-handed and freeing up the right hand to be able to go all over the place while maintaining this snare drum hi-hat thing here was just so cool. And then just slide here, and your right cymbal's there. There's no big journey from there to here, and you know, I was kind of seduced by that. And
That's really interesting.
Yeah. A lot of guys, I think a lot of people were. I mean, it will have been the first time I saw him play in 1974, and he had the Shabazz band with Randy Brecker and Michael Brecker there, and they'd done this concert which was recorded at the Rainbow Theatre, and we had a fabulous music show in England back in those years called the Old Grey Whistle Test. I don't know if you heard about
that show. Yeah.
It was great. It was great. And one of the extra things that was great about it was the fact that they would mix up programs so that you could see a very diverse range of different music and different artists playing alongside each other, literally one after the other. So a whole kind of fan base of one particular kind of music or fan base of a certain individual would be featured, but they'd have to trawl through 20 minutes of this other guy, you know, to get to wait and see when their artist came. And in the process, they either stayed with it or they didn't, but invariably people were becoming more used to an open and broad stage of music as opposed to just what's trendy right now and the whole show's about that kind of thing. So that was a real popular show for me, and I did a lot of discovering from week to week to week, because it really would be such a broad, different, diverse program of stuff that I mean, I was like attracted to this and that and this and just this, and the whole world was sort of opened up through that. And I'm sure for a generation of people, of course, the people who were tuning in at that point, as I was doing, it did the same thing. So it was a very, very healthy and fertile kind of programming situation, I thought, you know, very smart.
Yeah, very interesting. So it's interesting, you know, regarding like the Old Grey Whistle Test and what was going on back then, and the differences in what was popular music in the UK and in England versus in America. At a very young age, I fell in love with progressive rock and fusion and stuff like that. But by the time I was in a really good band doing that stuff in America, that's when the spandex and hair metal was coming up and new wave. And we were playing, like, for instance, up and down the Sunset Strip in Hollywood at all those places. But the bands that were playing with us were like Great White, Motley Crue, all that stuff was happening. And progressive rock was totally just sliding off the scale in America. And we were too sort of stuffy and snobby to say, no, let's reduce the amount of key changes. Let's make it a more simpler time signature and wear a skinny tie and let's make this work. It was, no. If anyone can dance to our music, there's something wrong with our music. Oh, it was such a horrible attitude at the time. And we kind of just completely missed the boat. Yet in Europe, that form of music really had a lot of longevity. It's kind of come around in different forms now with like Haken and Dream Theater and, you know, thank goodness Rush and Yes and bands like that endured through the decades. But I always found it very interesting that the kind of music I know you from playing really sort of never dropped off the map in Europe, right?
Well, I don't know if it dropped on the map, to be honest with you. I mean, we had, when you say the kind of music, you mean with Allan, for instance?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was a specialist taste, not only a specialist taste, I would say an acquired taste.
Right.
And I mean, we had some hysterical things happen, you know, on the first few gigs we did. I remember because it was quite wild, the band. In fact, the nature of the way we played together was pretty wild and full on. And the other thing was that, but it had a lot of joy to it too. I mean, that I felt was infectious, in that it was quite antagonistic between the drums and the guitars. Like we'd be provocative with each other.
Yeah.
And spontaneously too. So to people who knew the music and got used to it eventually, they could hear the difference, and you know, if they stayed for an extra show, they'd see a dramatically different show. So this began to get interesting, I think, for people. But yeah, it was by no means a commonplace, falling into a commonplace taste
Right.
bracket there. Not at all. But in fact, we were stopped. I remember one of the first ever gigs that we did was in an area of London called Covent Garden. You probably heard of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and in the sort of late 70s into the 80s, they had a venue there called the Rock Garden, and it was kind of a pub, majorly a rock venue. New signed bands would play there. It was like a kind of fringe place, but every now and again they'd feature something a little bit different, and they had us, and we had our usual kind of like 22 to 25 people maybe max, and I'll never forget, we started playing the first tune, and the either the organizer of the gig or the boss of the club or whoever started running towards us, waving his arms, going, "Hey, stop! Do you not know that people are in?" We were like, and we were in the middle of the first tune, and he stopped us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Unbelievable, right? Because he actually thought we were just goofing off and just
funny. I get it. Wow. He thought you guys were just noodling around.
Yeah, he just thought the whole thing was like we were having a massive laugh, pre-show. and he came up and actually stopped us. It's kind of hysterical.
Wow, that is hilarious. Gosh.
It's definitely one for the book.
Absolutely. So I have to ask, what was it like working with Allan? Was everything very rigid and black and white? Did he give the band any latitude on creativity or parts, or did he just have everything completely mapped out from A to Z, and this is how we're going to do it? If you don't mind, give some insight to the performing and recording and kind of what the process was like with him.
Well, the process was really involved him as the composer of usually everything, but he was the most reluctant band leader, the most unlikely leader or director, in that he really would refuse. He'd refuse to tell us what to do, even bass notes. He'd have great musicians and people who would be able to really take a composition like that and choose some very interesting harmonic movement under his chords, and he'd go, yeah, that's great, I love that, and they'd settle on whatever. But he left everything open. With drums, he was completely open.
Wow, that's interesting. I kind of suspected the opposite. I don't know why.
Yeah. No. In actual fact, he just and I, he always used to say that he got it from Tony Williams. So, and Tony was someone he apparently started working with, and at the beginning, Tony sort of played him a few things, demos of things, and he said, "So, find what you want to do on it." Basically, and had absolutely no direction at all. So he never told Allan what to do. And I'm kind of guessing that this is the Miles Davis thread coming down a little bit too, because I don't think Miles, certainly not in a conventional way, or any other way really, gave direction. You just say, do it.
Yeah, and that's a really wonderful observation, because when you look at the musicians that Miles chose, and you look at who Allan, worked with, Miles didn't need to really give direction because he chose them for their talents and wanted them to come through. So maybe Allan had that same mindset, like you're saying.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I think what was clear to Allan was what he didn't, and he'd make that very clear.
Yeah.
So he in fact, he really not want any kind of rigidity around what the drummer did. He wanted a lot of constant improvisational motion. So a lot of perpetual creativity, and he liked the drums to be quite strong and forthright. So And this was the side of him that really reflected this reluctant leader aspect about him, because he liked nothing better than to be almost just led, really, by however rhythm sections would start to not dictate, but interpret in a way that we'd take him for a ride, basically. He loved nothing better to do that. He wanted like a lot of strong, passionate motion happening so that he could just fall in with it. That's just what he liked. And the moment anybody settled into any 2 and 4 for too long, this would really drive him nuts. So he was probably the antithesis. He was probably the antithesis of most band leaders or, musicians you'd ever meet, really, in that way.
That's a neat approach. I love that, and very much so similar to Miles Davis. Yeah. So a complete opposite of working with John McLaughlin, would you say?
Not the complete opposite, but very different for sure. I mean, John, by contrast, will let you know if something's working for him, and sometimes give you a bit of sort of strange, mystical, Zen-like instruction. Again, Miles-ish, and it kind of leaves it to you as a Zen master, and you have to try to figure out, what does he mean by that, though? What does that actually mean?
And hope you're not going to misinterpret it, right?
Yeah. A little bit like the British government right now. Should I say that? Can I say that in the air? Great.
Absolutely.
And, not too far away, I tell you. And so we just find ways that he reacts to, basically. Yeah. And John just wants, he just, look, I only want one thing, blood on the floor, I want your total commitment. That's what he says. Where's the blood?
Well, at least he's open and transparent about it.
Yeah. He really is, I mean, he just wants to be kicked up the ass, and in a way that Allan did, but he's much more, he is much more direct and specific about letting you know that than Allan would ever be. Allan would just probably say nothing, just like, do what you feel.
Yeah.
And until you do something, and he'd go, wow, okay, all right. Oh, I hadn't thought about it like that. And that's another thing he loved, the discovery of someone else's interpretation of what he'd been writing, or his whole musical vision, and somebody bringing something that had never occurred to him. So really, he kind of thrived that way. He was very comfortable with that kind of way of working.
That's great. I'd like to touch, before we kind of jump way back in time to your beginnings, I'd like you to please touch on your work with Level 42. And for drummers and music fans and musicians who may not be familiar with Level 42, how would you encapsulate their music and what a takeaway would be for musicians, and in particular drummers, from getting into the music of Level 42?
Well, I think the catalog of albums probably best do the best talking on their trajectory and their whole journey and development and rise as a band. And then, of course, the first band split away and gave way for a new lineup, which I was involved in around 1989. I don't know, they're all different, really. Even all the albums by the original band are all different. So I mean, you get a sense of where they were going, and I think one of the great things about them was that from the start they were always very non-compromising, and they had a very clear idea of the kind of way that they wanted to play, and they were playing, which at that point on the pop scene was a rarity, to hear some kind of band with fusion influences in there, and Brazilian music in the harmonies, some Herbie Hancock kind of influence, some Earth, Wind and Fire, kind of inspired bass, Larry Graham, and all these kind of references spring to mind to when I think of the musicians that they were. And I remember a sort of 86 period being in a bar again, and and just hearing the constant rotation or selection of music that they were playing, and this live album, which is a really great album they made.
Yeah.
I think, Physical Presence. Do you know that one?
Yeah, I love that album.
Yeah, that really, to me, that's the real band right there, really doing it too, on great form. And what a sound that album is too. And I could hear all the influences of drummer Phil Gould and where he was coming from. And this would be the whole one and only chance in the evening that I would actually hear something that involved playing.
Oh, wow.
You know, the rest of it was pure 80s pop and early days programming, you know?
Yeah.
As much as I liked that, you know,
Yeah.
it was just thinking, like, who are these guys and how do they manage to do that, you know, and become popular? And they found their niche, you know. It was this funky, infectious, driving, groovy thing, you know, with a combination of that and a few really good songwriters in the band.
Right.
To me, there's no question of that. So I think all the albums, really, whichever you want to choose, represent different degrees of those positive aspects. And for me,
that's
what
true,
they were about.
There's clearly an arc, yet there's clearly a common thread through it all, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
How did
you always got to
with them? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
How did I connect with them?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I broke with my last. I can't remember what I was going to say.
Sorry.
Short-term memory loss. No, it's me. There was. How do we connect? In actual fact, to tell you the fullest story, in 1985, there was an album they did called. Oh man, what was it called? World Machine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and this was kind of just before that could have been the first record they had major hits with. I'm not quite sure, but they were starting their climb of popularity then. Definitely with that record, and I believe Something About You was on that record. So yeah, it had to have been. Yeah. Anyway, they'd been doing a lot of continual touring, and I think Phil, the drummer, and his brother Boone, who sadly passed away recently, became very disenchanted with the whole lifestyle of constantly being on the road and everything else, and the whole riggers, and you know, of course, it was a great time to be on the road, really.
Yeah.
But you know, for one reason or another, it wasn't working out for them anymore, and they wanted to leave. So this is way back in '85, and I got a call from the office, and they told me that Mark had seen me on a talent contest TV program, and I did a couple of them, like playing both keyboards and then some drums and then back to keyboards and this, you know, I don't think we won anything, but yeah, you know, it was a cool thing to do, and apparently Mark had seen one of those. He said, well, you know, if this isn't enough, he kind of plays drums like that. Then he goes on the piano and shreds, you know, and you know, I Hate Sky and whatever else. But I guess my name stuck in his memory, and we'd never really met, but he put my name to the office and they contacted me. By the way, what transpired was that the brothers, Phil and Boone, were staying. They'd got over like a difficult period, faced up to things, and some like a reconciliation, and say, oh, okay, let's give it another go, and let's see if we can, you know. Oh. And as it happens, I think they had another couple of years mileage out of that. And in 1987, I get another call. We're coming into, and I was in LA, we're coming into town to play. We're on a support tour for Madonna. Can you come down? I want to talk to you. And this is Mark this time.
Oh.
This is the first time I talked to Mark, you know. And he said, listen, we're covering ourselves at the moment, but we don't have a drummer. We need you. And I'm going, really? Like the last time, you know, the last time you needed me, remember? You know, no, I didn't really go there. I was kind of sympathetic to it. I wanted to hear him out because I was a fan of him, you know, and I still am. And they said, Mark said, listen, when can you join? And I said, well, I'm going out on the road in about 3 weeks with Allan. And then right afterwards, we go into Europe. So I said, I can't do anything until later in 89. I might have the dates wrong here. This may have been 88 or something. Anyway, whatever it was, I couldn't make it for quite a long time. And he amazingly said, well, listen, I'm going to cover you. I'm going to put somebody, you know, see through this period. And could I rely on you joining them at such and such a time in 89 or end of 88, I think it was. I think I'm remembering correctly now.
Okay.
And I said, yeah, I'm going to commit to that. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And I've always loved pop music. I've always loved rock music, prog music, jazz music. I'm an improviser by heart. Mm-hmm. I like all music. So, I mean, it was a very attractive idea to get into something, especially of that level, and really see if it could work, you know, and do my best for it. And that's which is what I did, and we kind of got it together and rehearsed for a while. And the first thing we did was actually some promo TV shows in Europe. Then new material came, which I was delighted about. So it wasn't all about playing the music of before, because you know how much stick drummers get for replacing an already great drummer.
Yeah, that's putting it out there.
You know, you want to talk to Simon Phillips or something, with, you know, coming into Toto.
Right. Or the Who.
Until you see, yeah, and replacing Keith Moon. It's like, you know, cannot be done, and you can't do this. And I got so much hate, my old sister. Wow. It was the most unhappy time of my life from that point of view. I've never seen such severity in and passionate hatred towards me in any other working situation in my life. I never knew anything like it. But it happened, and I guess they were snubbed because we've lost our band. You know, it's not the same.
Right.
And then my answer to that is, of course, you change the drummer in a band, you change everything.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, as you know, Dan.
That's look at Bill Bruford and Alan White in Yes. They are both great drummers, but the Yes just completely changed in so many ways with Alan taking over. It's really interesting topic. Yeah.
Yeah. And it continues too. Because I remember, you know, Keith Carlock getting some heat because he was no kind of successor to Simon Phillips.
Right.
So, I mean, can you not just accept the fact that that's no more and this is now?
Yeah, and
we're going to try and make it good. But of course, it's going to be different. It's going to be, everything's going to be way different than anything you've known before.
Right.
And but I'll tell you something, Dan. And as I always say, I would rather be Gary Husband in a challowing, challowing. That's a new verb. A challenging situation, rather than be a clone of the first guy, and not a great clone.
Right.
Like a poor man's version. Yeah. So I was just happy to do what I could, and so from that point of view, it was great because it was new music. So I was able to get involved in the band at a time where their style was changing anyway. So it was great. You know, it was a great experience. I mean, awesome. I think it's so such a cherished experience and rewarding experience for your playing, for our playing, to really go through as many different realms and contrasting experiences as we can musically, because it makes us broad. You take away things from every single experience and they stay with you.
Yeah.
It's like my first gig, we were playing without a PA. I was playing with a big band in 1976, and the drums were never mic'd.
Wow.
And really, I had to find a way of being very clear through the drums. So I would, as a lesson to myself, a constant lesson, I would be recording gigs from the back of the hall or in the middle of the hall, whatever, and just listening to what was coming off stage that I was doing. Like, and sure enough, I'd start recognizing, listen, those, note to self, this is in the mirror, listen, those small notes, you're wasting your time. Nobody's hearing that.
Yeah, the subtleties and nuances were getting lost, right?
Yeah. So you've got to either put a limiter on yourself, basically.
Yeah. Bring
down the super impactful accents, because they can swing just as hard and have just as much impact without being slammed. And your small notes have got to come up to nearer this point. So I was learning to really adjust my internal balance of the drums just through these recordings, and every night would be a different hall, different night, and I'd get nearer. I'd get more of an idea as time went by as to what people were hearing, not what I was hearing, which sounded at that close range, and with the band all around me, great, but out front, another story. So I thought this was a very, very useful start, and I'd still do the same thing today, regardless of what kind of music. But one of the things I had to do was sort out my snare drum clarity, because it just was not clear enough. And Sid Lawrence, the band leader, would be really on my case about that. He said, listen, if you have to play less, I would rather it clear. Mm. So forget the speedy stuff. Right. And just give me something that pulls the band into the center of the time, connects everybody, and gives everybody that experience. Yes, And sure enough, if you listen to the kind of drummers that were featured on the original recordings from music I was playing with that band, all the bassy drummers, Hal Jones, Sonny Payne, Joe Jones, all the guys. I can't remember the rest of the guy's name offhand, but they were all about like impact, Yeah. You'd hear a big, like, thunderous accent come out from nowhere, and there'd be no lead up from the drums. Wasn't necessary. It was far more powerful to just slam it right out of the blue, and everybody'd be going,
And they all did it in suits and ties.
Right. And, and I had to really work hard on that clarity. And, Dan, that has never left me. That's always been in the playing. I can still hear from that work that I did with the clarity, it's still with me today. So this is what I mean about all these different ways in which we can work on ourselves and more finely tune ourselves and progress and become better. Like really getting to the center of what we really want to sound like, and making sure that everybody's hearing that, instead of us just thinking, well, I played great tonight because it sounded great here. But
right. Yeah.
Why weren't people sort of into it? Well, I learned why.
That's brilliant.
These are the kind of, not just lessons, they were real gifts from really throwing myself into the deep end with things even that I wasn't familiar with, just to find out and to find a way to make it happen on the moment, right now. I was always pretty hard on myself, still am, and I've still got a ways to go. Hopefully I've got more time to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm moving all the time. It's, what an enriching and great environment to be doing it in.
That's awesome. I have about 30 more questions. However, I'll give you two right now, and we'll have to do this another time.
I'm going to edit my answers.
No, that's okay. There's so many things you've done.
Were you expecting a series of yes?
No, I want you to answer how you're answering is perfect. But there's so many things you've done that it warrants all these other questions. But the two that I'll ask now are this.
Yeah.
And I'll preface the first one by saying I completely subscribe to exactly the same philosophy that you're saying, that the more you expose yourself to, the more you take with you to put things in your toolbox to develop your own sound and pull out of the hat when you need them. I love that because I think the same way. However, having said that, who is the one drummer that you've gotten the biggest takeaway from that has shaped your overall playing? If you could point to one drummer's playing that has done that, who would that be?
Oh, that's the hardest thing in the world to do, isn't it? I mean, how do you do that? I mean, what I've learned from all the different drums, and they're all different.
Yeah.
So they're all okay. I mean, because I'm doing a drum course right now, and it's about primarily exploring areas of expression and interpretation in what you do, I'd have to probably say Tony Williams.
Oh, wow. Nice. That's a great influence. Absolutely.
I don't know.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I hear that in your
I have to say, I mean, right from his early period on the Miles records and up till from the big kit onwards as well, the big yellow kit. And I mean, that spoke to me. And really, by the way, it was only ever about that to me. I was never really interested in super technical players. I mean, I was always happy if the drummer had great facility, but it was almost, I'd prefer it if the technique was invisible. I didn't want to notice it. I didn't want to really, it didn't light my fire, but passion did.
Nice.
So I mean, I generally, I mean, even now, if I look at pop drummers on the scene, have you heard of Ash Sohn?
Oh, yeah. I love Ash's playing. Yeah. Yeah, we've talked, and I'm looking forward to him coming on. Yeah. What a groove and a nice, beautiful touch he has.
Oh, man. I mean, he just nails it. Every single video.
Yeah.
Another guy I like very much, Keith Carl.
Yeah.
Because he's essentially about soulfulness. Another English guy plays with Robbie Williams. I don't know if you know Carl Brazil.
Yes.
What a passionate player.
Yeah.
Every time I see him, I say, Mr. Passion. He just oozes like sexiness and passion.
Yeah.
Music just makes you feel like, wow, that's it. Like the best of the funk players did, or the best of any realm did.
Yeah.
And I kind of always gravitated to people who made me feel a certain way, or were provocative, or displayed a certain imaginative thing. But I really can't think of too many who expanded a whole realm of development in drumming as much as Tony Williams did, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's awesome. Conversely, my last question is my second to last, because I didn't tell you about the bonus question, but the next question is, has there been somebody on the scene in the last 2 to 5 years, whether they are new on the scene or just new to your radar, has there been a guy or a girl that has caught your ear where you've said, I'm going to follow them. I never heard of them before, but that got my attention and I want to follow them now. Someone within like the last 2 to 5 years? Other than me.
Yeah, aside from you, Dan, obviously, of course that can take that for granted. There's a guy right now called Colin McLean.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
You're not? If you look him up on the Instagram, he's big on Instagram, and there are a lot of. In fact, he's just made a solo album, not a million miles from Antonio Sanchez and his soundtrack to the Birds movie.
Wow!
But it's very. I mean, he really speaks to me. Carter. He's a real special drummer, a real special musician.
Nice.
And it doesn't matter what it is. It's funk, or it's closed in, or it's open, or it's adventure, imaginative, or pocket, or
nice
shuffle. He's just like a cosmopolitan musician. Whatever he plays, it just sounds fantastic. I hate these kind of guys.
That's great. That's great to hear.
But he's one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
I just found him.
I'll have to check him out.
I mean, I'm likely to be controversial, but I'm a big fan of Luke Holland. I think
me too. Yeah, worked with Luke in Singapore a couple of years ago. He was amazing.
Yeah, he is an amazing drummer.
Yeah.
I mean, what he's got together, the way it feels, and how tight it is, and of course all the added, you know, it's like going back to the Sonny Payne days with Count Basie or something. All the juggling, or who was it? Who else? Carl Palmer, maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
With the the whole routine.
Yeah, and Luke does a lot of. You don't see this a lot, where someone can play very linear patterns, but yet make them very musical rather than robotic. That's something that caught my ear about Luke's playing.
Yeah, and I think definitely because the way he makes them feel inside any chosen thing. I'm not saying that everything he plays to floats my boat musically, in terms of what the music's doing, but his contribution and how he just fits in there like a glove,
Yeah.
And
that's great.
He's a bad boy.
Yeah.
He's a bad boy.
Thanks for that. My last question has nothing to do with music. And we call this, in your case, the Gary Husband fun fact question. So the question is, when you're not playing, the Gary Husband fun fact question.
Fun fact.
Yeah. So when you're not playing music, when you're not playing drums, when you're not recording, you're not touring, you're not doing anything having to do with music, what do you like to do?
Sorry, I missed that question.
Oh, when you're not doing anything related to music whatsoever, like recording or touring or writing a program out or anything, what is it you like to do? How do you spend your time away from music?
Just the usual kind of relaxing things, I think, Formula One driving.
Nice.
No, I wish. I wish. Fact,
are you a Jackie Stewart fan? Legendary old Jackie Stewart?
Yes, of course I was. Look what he brought about in terms of safety. He stuck out for.
Yeah, I grew up watching.
Not only him, the guy with Nicky Lauda too.
Yep.
But no, I was I wanted to be a pro driver when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and my mom was like, you're doing so well with the music, and
suddenly the drums sounded so innocent, right?
Yeah, the drums. I'll tell you about that in a minute.
And wholesome.
She had a great reply to one of our neighbors once. But no, she'd say, you're doing so well with the drums and the piano. Look what you're achieving and everything. Why do you want to, risk killing yourself in a race car? What's the matter with you? Why do you want to do that?
That's hilarious.
No, but like Steve McQueen said in the documentary for Le Mans that he did, this great quote. He said, I don't believe there's anybody who drives a race car can tell you why they race, but I believe they can show you.
Yeah, that's very profound, but makes sense.
Great. Isn't that great?
It is, yeah.
Because there's no, I mean, what kind of a life they live, and the family, the loved ones are watching them, and are they going to live through this? You know, of course, you know, back in the days when I was in love with it, it was still very incredibly dangerous. I mean, you can go back on YouTube to see that. I mean, people, spectators and cars,
Yeah.
for anything up to 300 miles an hour, separated by bales of hay, Dan.
Yeah, yeah, but they were tightly baled.
What? Tightly, yeah. That's a given. Yeah.
It was dense hay. Yeah, that's crazy. Just
I mean,
crazy.
You cannot believe it in this day and age, can you?
No, it's crazy. I will thank you for that. I love asking that question and kind of finding out something and introducing to our fans, you know, something about artists that they may not know from their musical career. I think that that's important that we get to know each other as people to a degree as well, you know.
Yeah. No, I love that. Because what's I mean, somebody was right in the middle of writing something for somebody who's doing a piece on Bill Bruford. Mm-hmm. And it's almost impossible to talk about him because these people I'm writing for already know him. And I'm like faced with wanting to say at every turn, you know, with every phrase that I write, I said, but you know the guy. Yeah. I mean, how can you be one way, a certain way, play as a person and represent a complete other personality when you're on drums? You're the same. It's all you. People play how they are. To me.
Yeah.
You know, and I always found that most interesting and appealing thing too. So an inspiring thing, but. Yeah, I don't know exactly where I was going with that.
It's okay.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you.
I have a tendency to drift occasionally. Sorry, man.
Okay. Nah, I think it's a drummer thing. We'll have to do this again because there's, like I said, there are so many other things I want to ask you about, and we'll see what kind of questions come up in the comments of this over a few days.
Oh, great. Yeah.
And thank you so much for taking time in your evening to join me for this, your first Drum Talk TV interview. I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's been a great chat and a great occasion. It's great to establish that. Thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. And folks, thank you for tuning in with Gary Husband and myself, Dan Shinder, here on Drum Talk TV. Watch for more. We have so much going on this year. So keep your eye on our channels everywhere, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Vimeo, our website at www.drumtalktv.com. We got all kinds of other new things about to pop up too that you'll learn about soon. So sign up for our newsletter on the sign up button on the Facebook page. And I'll see you again soon with more. Thanks, everybody.